Welcome back to pre-algebra. What we're doing today is solving equations that involve integers using multiplication and division. First, last video was a dumb dog joke. This one is just quite interesting. There were two robins and they were lying on their backs, basking in the sun. A mama cat and her kitten walked by. The kitten complained, "Mama, I'm so hungry. What can we eat?" To which the mama cat, spying the two robins, replied, "How about some Baskin Robbins?" Which is, interestingly enough, my very most favorite ice cream. So, let me go ahead and finish this chapter 4. It's very, very quick. There's nothing that we haven't already been working on. We're just applying, multiplying, dividing, adding, subtracting negative numbers. We say solve negative 4n is equal to 68. How do you solve these equations? What you're trying to do, I don't care that negative 4n is equal to 68. What I want to find is, what is the value of 1n just simply by itself? So we're looking for the idea of inverse operations. We say, what's been done to the variable? Well, here, it's been multiplied by a negative 4. So we're going to apply the inverse operation, which is division. We're going to divide by the same quantity by which it has been multiplied, which is negative 4. Both sides of the equation we have to divide by the same value to keep our equation in balance. We have factors of negative 4 that cancel. We have n is equal to, I'm just going to write this extra little step in here. You do not have to do it. I'm writing this simply to illustrate that we are dividing a positive number by a negative number. We have oppositely signed numbers that we are dividing, so our quotient, which is a solution to a division problem, has to be negative. You complete your division over here if you need to, and you come up with a value of n is equal to a negative 17. Our next example says solve and check n divided by negative 3 is negative 15. Solve and check n divided by 3 is a negative 15. I don't care that n divided by 3 is negative 15. What I care about is what the value of n is. So I look and see what happened to n. If I started with n, what operation was performed on it? It was divided by 3. The inverse of division is multiplication. We want to multiply the left-hand side of the equation by positive 3. To keep our equation in balance, we also multiply the right-hand side of the equation by 3. We cancel common factors, and we have n is equal to negative 15 times a positive 3. You don't have to write this extra step. I'm just doing it to illustrate to you that we now are finding the product of oppositely signed numbers. Just like the quotient of oppositely signed numbers is negative, the product of oppositely signed numbers is negative also. So we have n is equal to a negative 45. Let me go ahead and pick out a couple of problems from our homework. Actually, let me go ahead and do this here. We want to solve an equation that looks like this. the opposite of n is equal to 36. Okay, your book says you rewrite the equation as negative 1n is equal to 36. Why are we doing this? Because we understand that we're talking about 1n here, but we don't care what a negative n is. We want to figure out what a positive n is. So once we rewrite that, it just makes it screaming obvious to us that we have divided by a negative number. Well, we've divided by a negative third time's the charm. We have multiplied by a negative number, so the inverse of multiplication is division. So this is what I was trying to get the division. We're dividing by a negative number. Divide the left-hand side of the equation by a negative 1. Divide the right-hand side of the equation by a negative 1. Common factors cancel. N is equal to 36 divided by a negative 1. Once again, you don't have to write this step unless it helps you to see what's going on. We have the quotient we're dealing with, because it's a division problem, of a positive and a negative. So that answer is a negative. N is a negative 36. I'm not married to this idea here of writing a negative 1 in front of the n, and probably that's because I've done this for so many, many years. When I see a negative sign in front of just a variable by itself, I automatically know that the solution changes signs. This will help you to be able to step and track exactly what you're doing. Let me go ahead and pick just one problem here. Let me pick one that's a little bit bigger. Not hard at all. I guess it would help if I erased this. This would be number 26, and I have 14 minus 37 times b is equal to negative 368. And over there is my work. Quantity 14 minus 37 times b is equal to negative 368. What do we do first? We complete the operation inside the parentheses. 14 minus 37, when you're subtracting numbers, it's the same as adding the opposite. You can show this as 14 plus a negative 37 times b is equal to negative 368. What do you do when you're adding oppositely signed numbers? Subtract the smaller from the larger, which is 23. And you keep the sign of the number that has the larger absolute value. So we have negative 23 times b is equal to negative 368. I don't care about negative 23b. I care about 1b. What's been done to the b? Multiplied it by negative 23. To undo that operation, I'm going to apply the inverse. And instead of multiplying by negative 23, I'm going to divide by a negative 23. And to keep both sides of your equation in balance, you have to divide both sides by negative 23. We now have b is equal to, let's see, over here in my scratch side, 368 divided by 23, 138. We have that b is equal to 16. Is my sign correct? Because I'm dividing signed numbers here. Both of the signs are negative, so the quotient is negative. This is all you're going to be doing. You have several steps that you may have to perform in the same equation, but we're just using the principle of following orders of operations. What happens when we add and subtract negative numbers? What happens when we multiply and divide negative numbers as well? Do you have to convert from a subtraction problem to an addition problem? No. If you're at the point now, we can say, oh, 14 minus 37, and maybe I want to write my 37 minus 14 over here. As long as you're careful to not drop your negative sign, just go ahead and say that's a negative 23b. That's really all that there is to section 4.7. Then once you're completed with this, go back and review your notes for the whole chapter. Then take your chapter review test, your chapter review. That will let you know if you are prepared for your test. And that's all we have for working with integers.